Hey guys, welcome back to our weekly market overview. We had a lot of interesting things happen last week, and give or take, because of my personal schedule, I didn't have time to drop this video sooner. But, some very interesting things have developed here over the last few days since we had our CPI data report released last Thursday. And so we're going to take a look at to see what the markets were able to react based on that news as we get ready to close out the end of the month here in the next couple of weeks. What is it that we're possibly looking at? And so, guys, every week we start with Bitcoin dominance. And as you see here, um, when we had this leg down, meaning we had a retest of previous resistance, we bottomed out in this big zone that we had been anticipating. And since then, we've had a pushback or a rebound of support, and we've been trading at these higher levels. I had drew this arrow out here, I believe, last week, and we were basically saying that we were anticipating Bitcoin dominance to retrace upwards to this 38.2% level. Now, is it going to exactly hit that level? Only time is going to tell, given that we're currently sitting at some resistance now from our moving averages. But what this translates to is essentially when you have Bitcoin dominance going higher, it usually means that Bitcoin is outperforming altcoins, which means that we had a bit of a rally after the CPI data released, because essentially what the news did was retest support levels, and then we reversed. And we saw that the dollar failed to create a new high last week. And so we're going to go over that here today as well. But what we're looking at now is, given that there is a bit of different options contracts that expire tomorrow, if that is what Bitcoin and entire crypto market is anticipating in regards to what type of movement are we going to see. And we'll look more at that here shortly when we get to the Bitcoin chart. But this is really what we've been watching. We want to see if price is going to hold here and or reverse, or turn itself around at this major area of resistance at the 42% level. And if so, what could we expect from there, given that we've had these multiple attempts to break resistance and we failed to do so? Will we actually get that push lower? That is something to only be told once that time comes, based on what reaction we get in price. So guys, that is Bitcoin dominance. We're waiting to see if we're going to hit, or if we're going to stay here and consolidate some ways and go lower. So allow the market to react and then continue on with your plan. Hey guys, so now the altcoin index, one that we have been watching, is that this directly mimics market structure for Ethereum. So we talked about this in the past, where we've had this area of support rejected in the past, which is why we had this run up to the nearest area of resistance. And since then, we've had lower lows, and we've just been trading sideways. And as you see right here, there's yellow arrow that we had here probably about a week or so ago. We were expecting prices to break down lower. Given this sideways consolidation that we've had, we were expecting prices to go lower. And it makes sense, given the Bitcoin dominance rejected support and his climbing higher. We know that the altcoins tend to, in a way, act inversely to that. So what that is showing to us is that if we notice with price action here in the last week, especially after the CPI data news, that although Bitcoin has decreased in value, it hasn't done so as much as the altcoins. We've seen Ethereum and tokens like Solana, dip further below in price than we have in Bitcoin. So I'm still expecting us to get closer to these lower levels of retest, and or if we are going to, hit some prices in between here. And we'll look at that by pulling out our fib tool and seeing that right now there is a level of resistance, level of support right here where we see that we hit it before. And we're probably going to revisit that here at the 1703 level. And then we have to see what happens from there, because typically when price hits a major area of support or resistance, we tend to consolidate a bit before we decide to either reverse or break lower. And given that this is a major level of support down here, we just have to pay attention to how price responds in these two areas. That will give us some indication if we're going to experience another relief rally or not. Or are we going to continue to slide in price? And so we'll have a better understanding of that once we jump over to the Bitcoin and Ethereum charts. But guys, this is our altcoin index. Once again, the altcoin index is a great measurement of price action for altcoins. We have been sliding lower ever since we rejected these major areas of resistance here back in August. And we've just been going lower. And we know that if we are in a bearish market with bearish sentiment, that we expect the acceleration of this decrease in value to continue to happen. So we just wait for that as we see what happens with the weekly close here for this week. Okay, guys, so now we're going to jump over to Bitcoin. And as you see here, we're on a 4-hour chart. We have been consolidating for quite a bit. And so now if we jump over to the higher time frames, to the daily chart, what's been going on here? So much like what we have shown in the past, we have these, ascending wedge patterns. Gotta love these tools, guys. Ascending wedge patterns that what they tend to do is break lower. And it became very interesting here because when we got this break lower, we got to retest the support and then another retest of support and consolidation that we've experienced multiple times. And we know that when price consolidates and gets tighter and tighter, it's only a matter of time before we get some form of a break. And so currently right now, we're waiting to see if we're going to break lower, or are we going to experience at least one more rally before we break lower. And you may ask, well, why would that happen? Well, one, like I mentioned earlier, we had a retest of the highs on the dollar index, and we're going to go over that chart here in a few, and it failed to give us a break. And we started to see the dollar break down, yet we didn't see much movement in Bitcoin. And you can probably ask why. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, there's some options expiring tomorrow. So I'm assuming we're going to get some follow through price action after those options expire. As well as when we look at what happened here with price, we had this really, really, really big drop in price, and we didn't retest any of these areas. So is it to say that price will come back up here? Not necessarily, given that we keep failing to break higher. And as of right now, at price, we're barely holding on to the $19,000 level. And we know that's the major area of support is at around 18,000. So we have to only just wait and see what we will get. And we know that tomorrow, what we receive as far as price once the options expire, it's going to give us a clearer direction. But once again, we're in a tight range. And the tighter this range remains, we're going to get a massive pop, either to the downside and or to the upside. And once again, like I said, this is determined based on what price action we're going to get at a dollar index. So if the dollar index continues to decrease in value, we're expecting more for this pop higher. However, as of today, in this moment, on Thursday, the dollar index was attempting to climb back higher. So that means we might get more of an expectation for this drop lower. And once we meet this area of support, then we just pay attention, because if we compromise it, then what we would tend to expect then is a break, a retest or consolidation, and then we're going lower, which is something what we've been anticipating for a very long time. And let me see here on the weekly chart. There is some major areas of support between 12K and 15K. And so that sounds very, very alarming when you think about it, given that Bitcoin has really consolidated in such a fashion for months now at a time. So you consider back in June is when we really got into the 17K levels. And for the last almost 4 months now, we've done nothing but consolidate in this area, rejecting every particular high that we've attempted to create. And once again, like I said, the tighter this range gets, the more of a result we're going to get for price to continue to the downside. And so that is what I'm expecting. And I see here, I know a while back we had our fib levels to give us some direction on where we could be possibly looking at for a target. And so let's see here. Let me get rid of some of these things here. And we'll put that back on so you have an understanding what we are potentially looking at. And so we do our swing here. And where does that put us? 12.5, 12.6. Is it to say it's going to be a straight dump? Not necessarily. Am I expecting capitulation because we've had all of this consolidation here in this area? Yes. But to say that this is just going to happen today, tomorrow, or next week, not necessarily. You know, we have to keep eyes once again on price action for the dollar to see how that responds. But we're pretty much expecting some more downside pressure. And once that happens, you know, then we're going to come back and look at our analysis again and see if we are going to truly reach a bottom, you know, anywhere between 12 and 15K, and see how the dollar is also reacting at price. So guys, that is Bitcoin. Now with Ethereum, once again, like I said, it looks just like the altcoin index chart. And what did we have here? We drew out this ascending wedge pattern for Ethereum. And what happened? We got this spike lower, but it failed to close below. It failed to close below. We made this nice pin bar and we came back up and basically retested the backside of this ascending wedge pattern. And as of this moment, we're currently trending lower. So I'm expecting price to feel this area where it pulled back from here a few days ago and close lower. And we continue downward eventually till we get to the level of support that we're retesting. So what is that to say, guys? If we look at everything that we just looked at, Bitcoin dominance is retracing. Altcoin index is trending lower and Ethereum is trending lower. So that means that eventually when we get the capitulation that we're expecting from Bitcoin, we can get real nasty ugly for the altcoins. So be prepared. If you haven't had a plan thus far, have a plan knowing that we could see a sub $1,000 Ethereum again. And if that's the case, I said there's quite a bit of room between this $939 level and 386. I'm not quite expecting that low. I'm looking between 500 and 600. But once again, that's not going to happen today or tomorrow, but in due time. So guys, always have a plan for what it is that you're looking to see when it comes to your trading and or portfolio for investing. So this is what we're expecting for Ethereum is more downside pressure. Once we get, you know, breakdown on Bitcoin, I'm expecting the same thing for Ethereum and altcoins. Okay, guys. And next up here is Solana, one of our favorites. Given that, you know, we are involved in the Solana NFT community. What's going on here? As you see here, we drew this ascending wedge pattern, which pretty much we see across the board with just about every altcoin. And when you look at the bigger scheme of things here, I've mentioned this before in the past, we had this price action here in the past, which is essentially repeating here now. And I've explained before that once we had this retest, once we had a break of this ascending wedge pattern, I was expecting Solana to come back down and retest the $25 level. Why is that? One, it's a psychological level. The second thing is it's what's given us the price action in the past, where we had multiple spikes lower, given we had this spike all the way down to $19. Is it to say that we are potentially heading there in the future? That's very possible, given if we break down below 25, you would expect the next major level below that to be about $20. So as of right now, we are heading towards those levels. I would say wait for price to hit our $25, $26 level, see what the market does at that point, given that we have bounced from that area of support in the past. And so what does that mean for us as NFT holders? That means that whatever the value is for as floor price for this particular NFT that you may hold, the value of it is going to decrease, even though the floor price might stay the same. And it's the same thing across the board, even with Ethereum. If you are an NFT holder on Ethereum blockchain, the floor price might stabilize, but the value currency that is pegged to the NFT might decrease slightly in value. Okay. So I'm expecting $25, $26 for Solana to be hit, given we get that break with 19K with Bitcoin. I'm expecting Solana to slide, Ethereum to slide, and pretty much the rest of the crypto market to slide. However, given again what's going on with the Bitcoin dominance, we might see not as much of a bleed in Bitcoin as we would see with the alt. So just keep that in mind if your portfolio is still mostly altcoin dominated. Okay, and now our good old dollar index. I know you might be looking at the chart like there's a lot going on here. Well, there's been a lot of price action happening with the dollar index. So let me go ahead and clean up this chart real quick so you guys can see what's going on. So as we mentioned in the past, we had a major break with the dollar index a handful of weeks ago. And what happened was, we've been breaking higher overall. And so now when we jump down to the daily chart to get a little bit more defined price action, we see right here, let's zoom in really quickly, that when we had the CPI data news last week, we got a rejection in price for the dollar index. So what ended up happening was we made a lower high, and then we retreated to support. And that support put us at about 111.62. And as of right now, we've been holding this level. And you may be asking why. This is why we love to use our Fibonacci tool, because it can give us some very precise support and resistance level. So when it retraced back down to a major area of support here. And essentially now it's making its attempt to push back higher to at least retest the 113 level. And if we see that we're going to get more bullish momentum with that, then we can expect prices to, come back and retest win 114. And then maybe we get some consolidation before we try to tackle 117. And you're thinking, oh my God, how and why? Well, if we keep experiencing once again the economic pressure that we are experiencing and have been globally with foreign currencies, with risk on assets, the dollar value continues to increase for those particular reasons. And so here's something to keep in mind. If we're expecting lower prices in crypto, directly, indirectly, we expect prices in the dollar to increase. So we know that we're expecting Bitcoin to get somewhere between 12K and 15K. That means there's a higher dollar value behind that. So it's not to say that this is going to happen tomorrow, but if we understand that this is a possible play that's going to happen, then it's something we keep an eye for. However, now, if we get this and there's failure, oh, then it gets even more interesting. We might come back and retest. Okay. And if we do that, we can experience some more downfall. Now, I in the past mentioned that I wanted to see a $120 index. It's not to say that that's still off the table. However, we pay attention to price action. We look at technicals as possible outcomes based on price action, based on history. So if we are getting what is being painted based on price action to show us what are the possible outcomes, we know that the market does three things: goes up, goes down, and it consolidates. And if we fail to do any of the going higher or going lower, and the consolidation forces price to react in one direction or another, you want to follow through with what the market is showing you. Okay, guys. So for the dollar index, we want to see if we're going to get this retest of 114. If we do and we break above that, then we expect some consolidation and we're going to try to go higher. And if that's the case, then we're going to see lower prices in crypto. And vice versa, if we come here and we don't get that and we retrace some more, then we might expect another relief rally with crypto. So what is that to say, guys? That's to say that have a plan, have analysis, have a if, then, or scenario. If this happens, you do this. If that happens, you do that. Allow the market and price action to come to you, and based on your plan, allow it to confirm it, and then you react. Okay, guys, so that is it. We will see you on next week. Happy trading, happy investing. And once again, pay attention to this weekly close to see what we can be expecting for the next week. And those will be the things that we go over. Have a wonderful rest of the day.